kiss like Prince, you're looking at the baddest.
What's up everyone, this is Lachlan aka Jafunk, and today I'm going to take you through my latest single, The Baddest, and hopefully show you some new tricks and skills that you can use in your own productions, and just show you some of the techniques that I used in this track. So let's get into it straight away. I'm going to start with the drums because this track actually started with the drums, and I tend to start most of my tracks these days with the drums. I think because like the drums gives you the groove, and it kind of gives you the direction for where you want to go with the sounds. Well, for me personally, I should say. And yeah, so I'm going to start. I think we started with a kick, just a simple kick, a 4x4 pattern. And this kick has 2 kicks playing at the same time, actually 3 kicks. The first one is just a live sample. I tend to mix the live with the electronic in a lot of my productions because I like to have the live feel, but also the electronic, the punch that those drums give. So I try to mix those two together. So I've got a simple live kick here, and then I've mixed that with a sub kick as the very first one, and I've got another kick on top of that, which is another live kick from Addictive Drums. And again, just to add a little bit more punch. And just a little bit more overall live feel to it, I guess. And I've added on that second kick a saturator, just to beef it up a little bit. One of my favorite plugins, the Compressor. And I'm just basically just put the lo-fi all the way up there. You can see it just kind of takes a bit of that top end off. And then also this filter. Again, I don't think I wanted that super clicky thing. I wanted a bit more of a lo-fi kick for this second one. So that's what I did there. Now let's move on to the claps. So I tend to stack my claps a lot. And as you can see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers on the clap. So it's quite a lot. And the reason is I like to have that feel of, like a whole bunch of people clapping all at the same time, and adding a whole bunch of claps together, I feel does that and just makes the overall sound really thick and full. So I've got the first clap here. It's called the Dirty Radio clap, and I think that was from Pleasures, the same clap I used in Pleasures. And a lot of the time what I'll do is I'll get like a sample from a previous track that I've had. All my previous productions that I've done, I'll save the drums, I'll save all my favorite sounds from those projects, and I'll add them into my own personal sample bank so that I can get my collection going. And that's kind of what, I feel like that's what defines your sound in a way. Like you add up all of your favorite samples, and over time, you start having this bank or this big library of sounds which you've created yourself. So that's kind of, I feel that's what gives you a lot of your sound as a music producer. So I've got one clap here, nothing on that. We've got a one-on-one clap. That was from another track I did with a singer, Aaron Pfeiffer. We've got another clap with also a little bit of a hat in there. And that one was sampled from, I think, my remix of Luke Million's Back to the Rhythm with Sam Sparrow. And then I've got another lighter one in here, the Funk Claps Hand. And that was, again, another one. All these things have just been resampled from old projects. Like, I think this clap here, the Funk Claps Hand, was actually made from, must have been at least 10 other claps, so there'd be something like 40 or 50 claps altogether in this. A lot of the time when I'm making these claps, all I'm thinking of is the tone that I want it to sound like. So, for example, here, you might ask why or how do you go about choosing 5 different claps to layer on here? And it's just an ear thing, like if I hear the claps missing a bit of top end, maybe I'll add this light one on, just to give it a little bit more. It's got a bit more in the top range, so I'll add that on. And I've also got, the thicker one, the claps give it the body. And then the verb clap here, which is I want it to have a real mid-range tone, which is why I EQ'd it like that as well. And there's actually another clap here. Oh, that's an even beefier one there, so it really thickens everything up and gets the clap sounding nice and full. So that is the claps. Now we'll move on to the kick hat. So just a very subtle hat that goes on top of the kick. You can hear that there, just gives it a bit more of a live feel, I guess. Let's hear all those things together now. So we've got the top kick, the snare, the claps now. You can hear already that sort of creating a bit of a groove. And then the next thing we've got here is the hats, and that's what really gives it the groove in my opinion. I think that's exactly how the track started when I was making it. It went kick, snare, claps, and now the hat. And once I had the hat groove in there, I went to the bass line and the other elements started coming together. So I'm going to go into the hat MIDI now and just show you. So it's basically a 16th pattern. And if you look in on the notes there, they're not all directly on, they're swung a little bit. And as you can see, the velocities change quite a lot everywhere. So yeah, it's again something I just played around with for a while, and then I found a nice groove that worked. And yeah, the velocities, the changing in velocity is the thing that really gives it that human feel, and that's what I want to go for in my music, is like a combination of the human feel and also the electronic stuff at the same time. So we're starting to get a groove now, and I'll just show you for those that want to know on the hi-hats. It is from the Native Instruments 70s drummer here. And it is I believe it's the tight kit. And on this hi-hat, all I've done is I've taken the overhead way down and the room mix way down. And what that does, if I turn those back up again, I'm just going to solo the hats now. You can hear they're really heavy now with that room and the overhead on. So I wanted these hats to be nice and light and to be bouncing off the groove. So taking both those things down, you can just see how much lighter and bouncier the hats are now. And I think that's all I did in that section. I think I might have added a bit of EQ as well. Actually, I did EQ this, so in the built-in EQ, which is quite nice here in the contact player, I've taken the low frequencies all the way down, -20, and also the lower mids. You can see there with that turned back up, it has a lot more low end again. Taking that EQ down makes it nice and light, and I feel it fits in the mix a lot better. So that's all I did on the hats, and there's a bit of sidechain compression. And that simple delay is not doing anything. So that basically includes the drums. The hat I've actually turned off, doesn't do anything. And a crash. Just a simple crash with a little bit of Valhalla vintage verb on it and some sidechain as well. And I think there was a tambourine in there. Oh no, that was just a drum. I recorded the drums to audio to save some CPU. Oh, the tambourine is here. That comes in later in the track. So I've added a simple delay to that. And that just pans it, makes it super stereo. I like to have my main drum, so the kick, the snare, right in the center. The claps I tend to pan quite wide, and the tambourine I'll pan quite wide as well. Just because I feel like the percussion is a bit more, I call it ear candy. So it sits on the side and it's not central to the main driving beat of the track, but it does add some groove as well. So yeah, I've put the simple delay there for the width, sidechain compression just to give it a bit more groove as well, and some EQ just to take out the bottom end. And I've also got a little white noise in here. Let's just go back to that white Oh, it's not actually working at the moment, but it's meant to go. Don't know why that isn't working. Not sure. You can hear it in the track, but it's just a simple white noise in silent. So yeah, they're the drums. So let's move on now. We'll go to the bass. So the synth bass, this is a bit of a beast here, this chain. It's a preset from Diva, and it's called the wide bass. I'll just find where that was from. Oh, okay, so it's from a Diva 2018. So this is actually a bank that a friend of mine gave me. I think it was Lewis from Just Kidding, so shout out to Lewis if you're watching this. And yeah, so it's a saw wave mixed with a triangle wave, and you can copy that preset there if you like. So that's the bass sound. I'm going to turn all the other plugins off now so you can see what it sounds like without them, and I'll tell you why I put each one on the chain. So the first one we've got is a sausage fattener. And here it just beats it up a little bit. I've had a little bit of fatness. Then I've got the max bass. So this one's one of my favorite plugins by Waves. And I use this plugin when I feel like the bass sound, I use it on kicks as well. When the sound has a little bit, is lacking a little bit in the lower, like in the sub range, this plugin can really add some sub to it. So I'll show you what it sounds like without it. And I'll turn it back on now. And you can really hear that sub there kicking in and really add some low end to it and give the bass some weight. And I use that on basically every bass I've got. So that's the max bass. And then I've added the CLA 3A. And that's really compressing everything. It's squashing it down almost 20 decibels there. And that's just because I wanted the bass to be quite, in terms of the volume to be quite straight, everything all the same. It makes it easier to mix and doesn't have as much fluctuation in volume. So that's what I've got there. And then some sidechain. Quite a simple sidechain there. And then I've got this thing called the Goodhertz mid-side plugin. Now what this does, as you notice, the bass is quite a lot of stereo information. You can actually choose to mono the frequencies below a certain frequency. And that's quite good because you want the bass to be in the center of the mix, but you can also have the top end of the bass quite wide. So I've put everything below 260 Hertz here in mono. And yeah, just tightens up the mix a little bit, gets all of your bass sounds in the center. A little bit of EQ just to take some of the top end of it. I felt that sat better in the mix. And then this is a filter for later on in the track. Now the bass line itself, this is quite a common pattern in funk. We're playing the actual scale here is F minor. So this pattern you hear all the time. And I mean, in disco and funk tracks, you hear that note pattern over and over again. So I decided I was going to use that in this track. It's just, you hear it and you just think funky straight away. So that was in my mind when I was creating the groove. And I think I'd also just found the stems for 24 Karat Magic by Bruno Mars. And in there's this bass, the bass line, I can't remember exactly how it goes. But it has this slide in there, so I think I had that in my mind. I wanted to have a little slide in the middle of the groove. And that's what you hear in the bass line here. And yeah, that basically just came, the way I create my bass lines is I'll sit I'll jam around for a while, and then once I find something that I feel sits really nicely in the groove, I'll stick with that and have that as my main bass line. So that's the bass. Now I'm going to move on to we got a little picked guitar as well with the drums. This is an amazing plugin, the one I used on this. This is called the Evolution Jazz Archtop, and it's really, really good for muted stuff. And you can hear there, yeah, just a nice, the tone also changes with the velocity, so it's really nice. It gives it a lot of human feel again. And I've just put a little bit of low cut on there, side chain, an amp, just a touch of amp. And I use the amp when I feel like a guitar, it needs a bit more top end to it. So I've only just added a smidgen on here. I'll turn it all the way up so you can hear. It just adds a tiny bit of top end to the guitar, and it helps it to stick out in the mix. So that's why I've added that there. And then again, the filter for the breakdown later in the track. So that's the guitar and the bass, the drums. So now we're going to move on to the chords. And so the first chord, the chord thing here is actually quite a big, oops, camera's messed up there. Yeah, the chord, the synths, I should say, it's quite a big mash of synths all together. I think I started with this one, the M1. It's a patch called Sweet. I think it's just a straight preset, and then I've chucked a filter on. Because I just wanted that kind of lower mid range for this sound, and then a tiny bit of EQ to give some room for the bass. And then I've got a silent preset. Just really simple one there. I think it's just a sawtooth, 2 voices, just a cutoff filter, and then a pitch as well, to give it a bit of wobble, bit of pitch wobble. Again, I feel that gives it the synths, when you're adding these like pitch LFOs onto things, it gives it a real vintage feel, and that's one way to recreate that. And then a little bit of EQ. Next I've got the Omni Sphere. I guess this is the main one that gives it the chords that character and makes it stand out. So I recorded that to audio from this here because it's quite a CPU intensive plugin. But I will show you the patch. I think it was just a preset patch from Omnisphere. Wow, my computer is slow today. Really struggling. Hopefully that opens. So let's check it here. So yeah, it's from the Polysynths bank, and it's called Ready PWM. Really nice sound. Yeah, really cool sound there. Yeah, so that's that sound. Just some EQ on that. We got some parts of my mini log here, so a little melodic line for later in the track.
Just bring your A again. We always run.
I just played that in from my synth, the Korg mini log. We've also got another one from the mini log here. Sorry, this one. This is in the bridge section. Just another preset sound from the Korg mini log there. Nothing on that except some EQ. And then we've got this grinding synth here, which is again from the Korg mini log. And you can't really hear it in the mix, but it just adds, again, it just makes the whole thing sound a little bit more full, I guess. So I tend to just stack lots of stuff on just to give it some fullness sometimes. And yeah, this track was one of those. Then I've got so this is the main melody now you hear in the chorus. And there's actually two instruments playing that. And yeah, it just gives again a nice melody, makes it more of a musical part now rather than just playing the chords. So yeah, that was that section. This part here, what's this? It's a Diva Pad. You can check the patch there. It's from, I think, from the Dream Synths, Planet Mars. And I think on this patch, I turned the delay off, left the phaser on, and then I also bring the release down. And then there's a filter on there helping it build into the
Just give me that kiss like Prince. You're looking like the baddest.
So yeah, that's most of the synths covered there. Let's see if there's anything else. Oh yeah, there's this little section at the end. And that's a Diva patch. Sounds like just a little saw thing. Okay, so this one's from the Ingo Wiedner Bank. And it's a synth brass. I might have edited the envelope and stuff a little bit. Just so it's a little bit tighter than it was before. And I'm not doing anything there. Tau chorus. Making it super wide. And a little delay there too. We got this. That was from the mini log. And again, I just had the chorus on it there. So yeah, that's the main parts there. There was a brass, which I recorded from session horns, which didn't end up making the track in the end. Pretty cool line, but sometimes I feel brass can make something sound a little bit too, I guess, old school in a way. And I do love the old school, but for this track, there's a bit more of a futuristic vibe, so I decided to leave the horns out. We got a string. That's in the bridge there, just creates a little bit of tension. Uplifter. Yeah, just creating some more tension again into the chorus. Another one. Added a bit of auto pan on that automation just to give it a bit more of a swirling ear can, a bit more pleasing to the ear, I guess, and just a straight riser. One thing which I haven't covered yet is the drum processing. So on my drums, I've got a Wolf compressor. It's one of my favorite plugins, and that really ties everything together. Makes it just brings the softer noises up and brings the higher ones down. And I'll show you what the difference is. I'll A/B it. It's actually adding quite a bit of volume as well, but the compression, I can move that up and down. Again, yeah, it really just glues everything together. And then I've added a saturator as well. Again, it's further gluing stuff together. I'll turn it off. Adds a lot of volume as well. And I've tamed the output a little bit there too. But yeah, the saturator, I always use that. I always use the Wolf compressor. And I don't know what these limiters are doing here. Look like they're kind of working against each other, but it must have been something that just happened in the production process. And then I've also sent, so what have I got here? This is... Okay, so that's the Camel Crusher. And the Camel Crusher is, again, another one that just thickens everything up, makes the drums sound glued, makes them sound really fat as well. And basically what it is if I turn it up, just a super compressed signal, and I mix that in with the dry signal. Sorry about that, had a few battery issues, but we're back. So I was just talking about the Camel Crusher on the drums there, so it just adds a bit of thickness. And I've also, in the snare here, what have I got? No, we've covered that, the reverb and everything. Okay, so yeah, that's basically the drums. Got the Camel Crusher. What do we got on the synth bass? We have, again, a bit of Camel Crusher for the synth bass. It's this one. And you can hear that, that's a super compressed signal there. It's got a lot of distortion on it as well. And it just makes the bass sound a little bit more interesting, a little bit more gritty, which is what I wanted for this track. And let's just A-B that without it. Yeah, it just adds a little bit of tone to it, a little bit of grit. And I really like that. So yeah, I think we've actually covered most of the parts here, and there wasn't actually that much in the track. It was, what do we got here, including the without the vocals, 40 tracks. We got a little vinyl thing just at the very start as well, just to make it sound a little bit vintage.
What we want is all emotion.
And then we got the vocal, and that is that's the beautiful work of Dirty Radio's engineer there, Tony. He engineers all of their vocals, and he's an amazing producer and mixing engineer. So I actually got him to do that one because he knows Shady's voice a lot better than I do. So I just sent that one off to him, and he came back with amazing sounding vocal. I just sidechained it a little bit, and a little bit of top end on the, just to brighten it up a little bit. This is a really good plug-in for that thing too. I put just a little bit of touch up on it, and a bit of low cut too. I think this wasn't actually the vocal I ended up using. I think this was just the demo. Yeah, this was just the working vocal. So this isn't the final one you hear in the track, but this was just the demo vocal I used. So yeah, I think that covers most of the parts. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to answer some of the questions which I got on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. I think some of them I've actually covered already in the production, but I'm going to just check them here quickly. Cool. So question number 1 comes from Chino, and he says, where do you get your inspiration from when you're creating music? I guess my inspiration comes from other music, like tracks that I'm listening to at the time. I'm a big fan of disco, funk, contemporary stuff like Anderson .Paak. Pomo is one of my favorite music producers, so I'm listening to a lot of his stuff. Lots and lots of different influences, like house music as well, I guess. So I'm listening to these influences. I've actually got this Spotify playlist which I use, and it's I call it, it's just track references. So things I hear which I think, yeah, it might be cool to have some drums like that, or it might be cool to have some chords that sound like this, or you know, stuff that inspires me basically. And I'll just have those in Spotify, and I'll put them in, I'll then download it, and I'll put it into my Ableton project and try to recreate a part of that, so to speak. So yeah, a lot of it comes from other music. Next question was from Townline's Music, and he said, how did you write the composition? Did you start with the chord progression, then bass and melody, or did you start with the melody and build the sound around it? What key mode is it in? Sounds like there's some blue in there. Did you modulate the key at any point? So the composition, I think I sort of covered it at the start, but it started with the drums. I felt like that got the groove and the vibe of the track going, and then I wrote the bass line, and then I added the chords and everything around the bass line. When I was writing the bass line as well, I did have in mind kind of that I wanted to start with an F minor 9, so the whole bass line was in F minor. So yeah, I had that in mind, but it was bass line, then chords, and then the vocal later. I actually finished the beat, and then I sent it off to the Dirty Radio guys, and they put the vocal on top of virtually the finished beat. And the actual chords, I can go through the chords really quick with this synth here. So this is the main progression goes, it's F minor 9. I'll get the piano roll up so you can see it as well. So that's the first chord, and then G minor 7. And that just repeats through basically the whole verse, the whole introduction, the chorus as well. The only time when it changes is actually in the bridge. So in that section it goes, what do we got here? We've got another F minor 9, G minor 7 again, but just a different inversion. And then we got, this one's actually an A flat major 7, I think. Yeah, but this inversion. And then that repeats. So F minor 9, F minor 9. And then again. And then it finishes on the A flat major 7 again. I think actually the bass line might be playing, the bass line does change as well in that section. It's still in the same key of F minor. Sorry, it's the guitar. Oh, okay. So yeah, it's not actually F minor 9, the first chord of the bridge. It would be a flat, yeah, or a G sharp major 7. But yeah, that's the basic idea of the chords. And there was a second part to that. Does the key modulate at any point? So the key doesn't actually modulate, but the progression just changes in the bridge to what I just showed you there. So question 3, this one comes from Sess. The plugin I use the most in mixing. That's probably a good question. So the number one plugin I'm using, I've got quite a few which I like. I guess the main one would be the Compressor. I use that quite a lot on the drums. I also use it on chords and stuff. It has this really nice wow slider. But what it does, yeah, it just modulates the pitch. So yeah, Compressor is probably my number one. I also use the Camel Crusher quite a lot on the drums. That's a big favorite. Valhalla Vintage Verb, another favorite. The whole Waves bundle, there's a lot of good stuff in there. Like the GTR Stomp I'm always using. It's got this really cool wah. It's got a great phaser as well. This one, the picked guitar, I guess not really a mixing plugin, but Evolution Jazz Archtop. I love that one. Yeah, I think that's it in terms of plugins. Yeah, probably those 3 or 4 there are my favorite ones. Tau Chorus is another simple but good one. But yeah, the Wolf's probably my favorite, I would say. Okay. Close the file. So next question. Gregarious Music. How do you go about working with vocalists in terms of balancing their input on the arrangement of the track with your own ideas and production changes suggested by vocalists? Could you describe your best experiences working with vocalists where things worked out really well? So that's a good question, actually. So I think it's good to always be open when you're working with a vocalist. Like obviously they have an idea of where they want the track to go. You've got your own idea obviously as well where you want the track to end, what you want it to end up sounding like. So what I tend to do is keep an open mind, listen to what they have to say. You don't know everything. So you have to, some people are going to know things that you don't, or see something in a in a different way to you. So just be open to their ideas, and you never know, something they suggest might sound really good and it will be something you wouldn't have thought of before. But also you want to keep in mind that, you know, you deserve to have an input on the track as well. So, you know, make sure you stand your ground as well. If you think you want something to sound a really specific way, make sure you trust in your own creative ideas as well. And yeah, just believe in yourself essentially, I guess. So yeah, it's a bit of give and take though, you know. You got to be open to ideas, but also have your own vision for where you want the track to go. And also it kind of depends on the track. If it's a track for your own artist project, then maybe you have a bit more of the final say, or if it's going to end up something for the vocalists that they're going to release on their own, then you want to listen to a bit more what they have to say if you know it's going to have their artist name on it and they're going to have to carry that track for the rest of their career. So you want to make sure that they're happy with it as well. Next question from Holistic Music. Plugins and techniques you use to check your mix down balance. So most of the plugins you've seen here in this project, like the Wolf, Valhalla Vintage Verb, Camel Crusher, CLA 2A is another one I use, the Waves bundle. I use that quite a bit. But I think for mixing, the main technique I'd say that I use is reference mixing to other tracks that I like. So what I'll do is I'll find another really similar track, like I don't know if I use one for this track, maybe it was 24 Carat by Bruno Mars. And what I do is I line that up in the project with my song, and then you just have to sort of A/B between the reference and then your own track, and really like pay super attention to detail, you know, making sure the balance, you know, if the instruments are brighter in one, you got to match yours to that, and just A/Bing it all the time between your reference mix and virtually just copying the tone of everything. And that's something that you get better at with time and just by practice. So you just have to keep on, you know, every single track you do, just A/B it with a mix you know sounds great and you know is good. And, you know, eventually your mix is going to start to sound better too. And that's the main technique which I use. Question 6, do you only work on one project until you finish it, or several in the same time to not being bored? Yeah, that's an interesting one. So usually the way I work is I have a few different ideas on the go. I will have a few different projects, you know, that I'm working on, different ideas. But once I've got a really strong idea, which I know I want to finish, I will make sure I commit to that and I'll finish the whole track, you know, finish the whole beat. And, you know, sometimes that can take a few projects. Like I'll sometimes go through 5 or 6 different projects until I get one where I'm really happy with how everything's sounding and I actually go and finish it. But yeah, to answer that question, I guess I have a few going at once until I have one which I think is really good and really strong, and then I'll go and finish that. Yeah, I don't think there's any right or wrong way to work there. It's just what works for you. So yeah, I hope that helps in some way. Next one's from Hugo. You seem to be really good at mixing and mastering tracks. Any advice on mixing/mastering? Do you recommend some plugins? So yeah, again, sort of covered most of the mixing and mastering plugins there. I don't tend to do my mastering myself. I have done it basically every track up until my EP, Elevated Music, and this track I've mastered myself. I use the Waves bundle quite a lot, like the SSL compressor, the C4, the L1 limiter, all those things. I'm pretty average at mastering though, I must say. Like mixing's better than mastering. So yeah, mixing plugins, I'd say, the Waves bundle is great. You know, the Wolf compressor, Camel Crusher, all those kind of things. But I think more importantly than any plugin is going to be the sounds that you're using. So make sure when you're putting sounds into your project that they're really high quality sounds. And choosing high quality sounds is a little bit of a skill, I guess, knowing what sounds good together. And it's a bit of trial and error as well. So you've just got to try things out and just see how they sound. But yeah, high quality samples is a big one. Make sure your sounds are good from the start, because, you know, if you have a really average sound, a sample, like a really average kick, it's going to be a lot of hard work to get it to sound good. And a lot of the time, even with every single plugin in the world, you're not going to be able to get it to sound good. And I think the best mixes I've done, like I was quite happy with this mix, Back to Life, which I'm going to do a tutorial on as well. Really happy with that one. And there's almost no plugins on any of the sounds. And I think that's just, you know, comes down to the fact that I was using good samples and they sound good by themselves. So always look for the really great samples, create your own sample library so you don't have to do a lot of mixing and mastering. So yeah, coming on to the last question, drum bus processing and how to find vocalists. So drum bus processing, I guess I'll go back here again. Wolf, I always chuck that on the drum bus. Saturator, I use it all the time as well, just the simple Ableton one. And CLA2A is another good ways one, which I like. But yeah, they're the main ones I use in my drums bus. The API 2500 as well, really good drums bus compression. And how to find vocalists. So yeah, working with vocalists, I'd say the best thing to do is just to reach out to them probably on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. Most people are on Instagram these days. But yeah, just literally send them a message and say, you know, I really like your sound, your vocals, your whole vibe of your project. I'd love to work with you. And you just got to try and connect with people. And I guess now, especially in quarantine as well, Instagram is probably the only way to do that. So yeah, just reach out to people, try to see if they want to work with you, send them some beats, you know, show them some of your other music if you've got stuff, and just try to connect basically. And I find with vocalists as well, meeting in person is good. Again, that's tough right now in the situation we're in with coronavirus. But yeah, vocalists generally, they're working with a lot of different producers. They are working on their own stuff, and a lot of the time, you know, they've only got time to do a studio session. So try to get in the studio with them, make something happen on the day. And yeah, but obviously people love to go back and forth as well online. Like with this track, the Dirty Radio guys, I hadn't actually seen them during the whole process of making this track. I was in Australia, they were in Canada. So we just sent stuff back and forth online until we had something that was finished. So it can work anyway, but yeah, just try to connect with people in whatever way you can. Yeah, so that's all the questions there. If there are any other questions that you have, if there's anything I've kind of skipped over too fast that you want some more detail on, feel free to leave a comment and I will answer them all. And yeah, I think that's all. So thanks very much for watching. I hope this has been of some use to you. And I'm going to see you again real soon. I'm going to do another production tutorial with my friend Chris Fabish. We're going to break down Back to Life. So I'll see you then. Thanks for listening.